Hello, I'm Sinta Ebersohn. I'm the founder of Get Up and Grow, and today we're going to talk about being a widow. To commemorate International Widows Day, with me is Karin Gemmeken, who's here to share her story of losing her husband and the father of her children. Karin, thank you so much for being here and welcome.
Thank you, Sinta.
Can you just jump in and share your story with us, your journey? Please.
Okay, yes. Literally, as I was getting divorced from my first husband, and yes, it was a matter of we stayed in the same complex. I dropped a note in post boxes because the lady working for me needed work, and he was the only one who replied to the messages and said, yeah, he needed somebody. And I met him then. Only the next year did he arrive on my doorstep and ask me if I wouldn't go with him to a friend's birthday, which I immediately phoned my mother and said, listen, this man, that works for, Mildred works for, has just asked me on a date, should I go? And she said, didn't ask you to marry him. So we went, and it was very interesting because we found out that we actually know the person whose birthday we were going to.
Oh.
I went to school with him, yes. And Nigel was actually a very, very good friend of his. So off we went, and yes, we had a lovely evening, realized we didn't have much in common. I like red wine. He didn't really like wine. I chose fish. He chose beef. But it was a lovely evening. I was in a very difficult situation in my life, trying to waddle the divorce thing, and we were just friends. We went and played squash. We ate chocolate together, at night when he came back from work, because I was a teacher, so both of our days were busy. And yes, we first became friends. We were friends for about 6 months, 7 months. And then we kind of got into a relationship. And yeah, we were in that relationship for 3 years before we got married. It was about three years before we had our first child, Darren. He was the apple of his dad's eye. Absolutely, Nigel unbelievably thought that child was God's gift to mankind. And yes, their relationship was very, very special. 3 years and 7 months after that, our second son was born, Grant. And yeah, the boys loved their father, absolutely loved their dad. And we were a very normal family, Nigel was an attorney. He had his own practice. He worked very hard. I was a teacher. We had long hours, but our children went to school and they were happy. They played sport. They were very good at what they did. Nigel came and supported when he could. He loved the rugby on a Saturday. Granty was 13 years old and in grade 7, and Darren was in grade 11. And well, just to put this just to put another little piece in, Grant's best friend, Ruan Dupria, they were in grade 7 together. And in the June, July, it was comrades. And it was something that Nigel really enjoyed, was the running. He used to run every single weekend, the 5 and the 10Ks at the park runs and the fun runs and that. And the kids would join him often. I was definitely not sporty and a little bit more involved in my work. So, I didn't do all of those 5Ks, which if I think back now, I think to myself, sometimes I think I should have done just a little bit more of the 5Ks with them, just spent one Saturday morning instead of working, or going out and actually doing a 5K with him. So, he was very involved in watching the races and that. And Ron's father, Louis Dupria, was running the race that 1st of June in 2014. And I don't know what happened. He was 39 years old. He was fit, everything. And he collapsed at the finish line. So, and on the 8th of June, he passed away. So my child wrote a letter to Ruan saying how very sorry he was that his dad had passed away. And I didn't really know Annelie, who then became my business partner with the properties. And we took food and, we gave as much support as we can. But her and I grew into a relationship because for her story was absolutely, he was the love of her life, and I just felt I had my husband, and this woman had lost her husband. Anyway, that was June. On the 14th of November, I went to a convention, the Sotheby's convention at the Palace of the Lost City. I went with my sister-in-law, Dawn. We left 9 o'clock the morning. It was always a big thing, they recognized the top agents, in the offices at a convention like this. So we got there, we were put into our rooms. We had something to eat next to the pool that day. And I don't know what made it, or what made me decide to go down to the entertainment center at Sun City and go and look for earrings that I wanted to wear the next night, with a dress. Anyway, I went off to the entertainment center, couldn't find the earrings, decided to have a pedicure. And in that entertainment center, I don't know, I just sat and had this pedicure, and it was quite amazing. There was no signal, couldn't use your phone. It was actually just relaxing to just sit there and be. And when I got out of the entertainment center after I had that pedicure, my phone just beeped like mad. And I saw that I had missed calls from my sister-in-law, Dawn, and from one call from my husband's phone, and from Haley, who was also there, one of the other agents. And when I phoned back, they said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm in the entertainment center." And they said, "How long will it take you to get back to the hotel?" And I said, "Well, it should be about 10 minutes. The buses run, I think, every 10 minutes and that." And they said, "Well, please, will I hurry?" And I thought to myself, my son, Darren, who was in grade 11 and was on a motorbike, I thought, he's been killed. So I got onto the bus, and I tried to phone my husband. And nobody answered. And I got back to the hotel, got to my room, and there were just hundreds of people. And that's where I found out that Nigel had collapsed from a heart attack in his office at 4:30 when I was having that pedicure. So they were very good at the hotel. They had packed me up and my sister-in-law, and we headed home. The funny thing was, Dawn wanted to drive. I said to her, "No, I'll drive, because I can't drive from Sun City to Pretoria for an hour and a half. I'll go off my head." Anyway, I told her she could do all the phoning, because then now we had to phone it. Plus, my child, Grant, was at Annelie. He was spending the weekend with her. So that was the first thing, Dawn phoning her and saying, "Where are you? Are the kids close by?" And sitting her down and saying, "Listen, Nigel's passed away." So that conversation took place, and we just said, "Please have him home, Grant home at 8:30. That's 7:30. I thought that's the time that I sort of timed it, because normally what happened is Nigel would help Darren to put my boards up, for show houses on a Sunday. And then they'd get pizza, and this is what they were going to do. And Grant was at Ruan, so the whole weekend had been planned. Anyway, we started phoning everybody. Luckily, I had my family is a very close family, and we phoned all of them, and everybody was told to please come at 8:30. I think I actually can't even remember, but I had to first get home. And when Dawn and I got home, it was basically Darren saying, Mom, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be, at the convention. And then having to tell my child, that his father passed away. So if I think about it, and if I think back of it now, that is the ache that never goes away, is how your children, how you so, like I look at them now, because it's 2014, so next year it will be 10 years. They've grown tremendously, and I keep on thinking, I wonder what it would have been like for them, what their dad would have said about their accomplishments now. What would their dad have said about them in that rugby match, and how would he have reacted now to Grant in his, they both have their degrees and they've both done well. And so that ache doesn't go away. Anyway, that night it was telling them that, Grant was brought home, your whole world. I think that is the one thing you never forget, is that day, that moment, that time, that immediately afterwards, and plus the fact that we couldn't go straight, and I couldn't be there. I wasn't even in Pretoria when he had the heart attack. Yes, and then I don't remember much about the week that followed. Then it was the funeral. And then it was taking these two boys and saying, okay, this is where we are. Darren never went and wrote his grade 11 exams. I said to them, we will do what we can every day. And he was supposed to start the Monday. And on the Monday, he said to me, I can't write the exams. And I said to him, 100%. If you can't write the exams, I phoned the school. I said to them, you can't write the exams. Grant, we were in that, the prize givings and all of that. Now we immediately fell into that. The first of, your dad won't be there. The first of this, the first getting to Christmas, the first Christmas, Darren was going into matric, doing applications for certain things he had to do in matric. Suddenly I was on my own. And our marriage, Nigel and my marriage, was such that when we got married, we were very equal in our marriage, but he was the decision maker and the card holder, and he made those decisions. As a lawyer, I never even questioned anything, and we didn't. So my card was attached to his. It didn't bother me in the least. My money was paid into his account. And if I think back now, I don't think I would have changed that. Our marriage just was like that, that's how we were. The one thing I can say is making sense of that was chaos, because he passed away on the 14th. The funeral was on the 21st. And then when I came up for air and realized that the debit orders are going to be going off, and I don't have a clue what debit order is what. And I started pulling accounts, and I started, when people, my friends and that said, okay, let's look at this now, especially Annelie had been through this, and well, her and I, we spent a lot of time just huddled in bed, literally not able to get up, because it took her right back to June. And it was absolutely like, nobody can explain how you feel in that time. And also you can't look forward to, you're trying to say, okay, what do I do now? Well, the first thing I had to do, Dawn luckily was very good there, and the box arrived from the office and that, and we had to make sense of the paperwork, because the thing that you don't prepare yourself for is, where's the will? And they phoned on the way when we were driving back from Sun City, and somebody wanted to know, where must we take him to, you know?
Mm.
And the shock of realizing that, I don't know, where do you take, I think I said something like, where do you take dead people to? Don't they know, you know?
Mm.
So, yeah, he landed up at a funeral home. And afterwards I thought to myself, it wasn't something I decided. And I don't even think, yeah, you just don't know. And then, yes, then undoing everything, you know, undoing and realizing that they're going to freeze your accounts, you know, and they're going to, if they get the death certificate, they will freeze the accounts. And then, yes, there are policies. That's the other thing. There was a policy that then can bide you over time, but what is the best financial decision, you know? And even though I had very good friends that assisted me with that, a very good financial advisor, and Nigel's very good friend, who was also a lawyer, sat down in that, there were still some things that Nigel and I had not discussed. And hence I have a file now called the file. And the file starts with a will, and the file then has everything has to be in that file. Now, honestly, now that I've got remarried, because there's a silver lining in my life, the file's changing again. But yes, so that first bit was incredibly intense. The next year, I think I took about 3 to 4 months to gather things. And then I started working again, and I sat with my boys. And the nice thing is that we sat down and we decided, Dad's in heaven. Dad's he's in a brilliantly fabulous, wonderful place. We took his ashes to Salt Rock, his favorite place in the whole world. We used to do our family holiday there every year. The whole family, our family gatherings, he had 6, they were 6 children, 5 siblings. And I have 3 siblings. So our family gatherings were a riot. You have everybody there, you might as well, it's like, you know, it's crazy. But for the scattering of his ashes, we always did family things for 80ths and 50ths and 40ths and 20ths and 21st. We went to Salt Rock, scattered his ashes, and it's over there that I realized, I remember the last morning when I was the only one on the beach, put the flowers down and turned around. And as I turned around, I heard the water, and I turned, and the dolphins were playing in the waves. And it was such a perfect message that I'm happy. I'm happy, and I'm in heaven. I'm in the streets of gold. One thing that I do know is my husband died of stress. My husband, yes, we had a very good family life, but the year before that 2013, with a family, his brothers and sisters and a lot of their children, 12 of them decided to do the otter. And there was an open space 2 weeks before the otter. And when it came up, I said to him, you should do that. It's always been on your bucket list, you should do that. And he said, oh, but there's so much, you know, and business, and you can't leave now. And I said to him, you know, there's never a good time, you know. And he said, yeah, but now you can't go with, and the boys. And I said, you know what? There's one spot. Do it. Just do it. It's, you know, take the opportunity. I wish it for you. So he did it. And when they came back from that otter, I remember him saying, you know, what a life, what a life it is to be out in nature, and because he loved it. I mean, they ran their races, and they used to do trails, and they used to, any opportunity I had to be out in nature, Nigel would be there, and the kids loved it as well. In fact, him and the boys went camping a lot. So it would give me mom time at home, you know. But if I think about it, you know, sometimes I'm not a camping person, but I should have gone just for, you know, doing that. The same as it's funny how things work out. The 2013, that year as well, we decided, spur of the moment, that we were going to go to Disney. Now, my sister was a flight attendant for SAA, and so she got IDS 90s, which means we only paid, I think, 75s. We only paid 25% of the cost of the flight, but we went in December. So we went to Disney, the four of us. And the kids were at that stage where they don't want photos taken, but I mean, I was terrible. I just used to make them turn around and, you know, take a photo. And, you know, when we did the PowerPoint presentation for the funeral, the most beautiful photos came out of that family holiday. So when he came back from the Otter, he said to me, we should sell everything and go and buy that guest house in Tsitsikamma. I said to him, you know, and Dawn also said, that's such a good idea. And we said, you know, then we'll make sandwiches for the people on the Otter, and we'll run a guest house, and we'll sell everything and we'll go. And I honestly believe that it, you know, you can never say if I could have it again, but, you know, if you could have it again, I think a person has to think how your life, and you know what, I can't actually say that. I believe your line is drawn and your time is there. No matter, you can't do anything about your line that's been drawn. That is the date, and Nigel's date was the 14th of November. And the boys and I, after Salt Rock and after all of these things and putting our memories together and sitting there and celebrating his life, said he was meant to go to heaven on that day. As much as he was young, and as much as there was so much potential and there was so much more that we could have done, and why, when Darren's going into matric, why when Grant's going into high school, you know, there were so many whys. But I think when those dolphins jumped out of the ocean and we sat down at that weekend and laid him to rest, we made a decision, we've got to look forward. And the main thing that for my boys at that stage was, how are we going to go forward? And because I had to have all the chats with them about, you know, like if things happened, I suddenly realized that maybe something Nigel would have done. But we sat on the bed also one day, and I said to them, you know, we can, because Grant had a tough day the one day at school, and he came home and we sat on the bed and we were talking, and I said to him, you know, you can actually use your dad's death to your advantage as much as you want. People will feel sorry for you. They will. They'll have a lot of sympathy with you. They'll, you know what, you're always going to get the sympathy of people, because it is a terrible thing that happened. And me as well, I can ride this forever. But I don't think that's why God puts us on earth, and why we have to take this now and say, your daddy's happy. Your daddy's not here anymore. And if it's true that heaven is a wonderful place and that it is the best life ever, then we have to now take our lives and say, what do we do from here? And those two children, from there, basically, we decided we're not going to use excuses anymore. Not that we did, or, you know, but what we're going to do is we're going to make him proud. Because in the funeral as well is one of the things that the children said, and I was very proud of them, was that they said they wanted to make their dad proud. And I promised him at that funeral I would look after them. So, and if I think now, that's why I said, you know, in the beginning, I wonder what it would be like if he was here now, because Darren got his degree, Grant got his degree, he's busy doing his honours, you know. I definitely know he's proud of them, you know. And yeah, 4 years into the journey of being a widow, I met my a friend from school that linked with me. He was in America. He was a ship's captain there. We were in matric together, so we were in the same school, and he sent me condolences and that, because we were all kind of in the same group. And we chatted often, and it was quite nice chatting to him, because it's lonely at night. You come home after work and if the kids are sorted and they've gone to bed, and all you have, it took us about 2 years to take Nigel's clothes out, and to the kid, I said to the kids, when you are ready. And it was, I think 2 years after he died, one day, Saturday, I said to them, are you ready? And then I said, and we've got to decide what we're going to do with it. And then they said to me, okay, so let's donate, you know, I said to them, take what you want, and what we'll do is we'll let all the family decide. Because like his mom wanted a shirt, and his sister wanted a shirt that she made a pillow of, and the kids wanted his rugby stuff and his running stuff, and so they did. They took what they wanted, and we took the cases with what was left, and we took it to where a group of people were sitting, and we said, you know, take. So it was easier when it wasn't all the memories, not everything went, but there was a time when I had to say, okay, so what now? And when Rob came along and we started talking and that, it was lovely just to have a friendship. And he was in America, so it was absolutely perfect. The kids realized that about 3 years, 4 years, that, you know, I told them I had this friend, but they also realized, you know, you're on your phone, and I mean, and so we spoke about it, and they just said no. I said to them, he's going to come from America, and I'd like him to come and have supper with us. I'd like him to meet you. And they just said no, no, thank you. So the first time he did come from America, it was actually to see his parents in Knysna. And then he was going to come to Pretoria. He said he wants to come and have a cup of coffee, which was, you know, I said to him, not a problem. And but the kids wanted nothing to do with him. Then 2 years after that, his father fell, and he had to come back again. And I said to the children, Rob's going to come back from America again. And I said, and I'd really like this time, you know, for us to go out to supper, but he doesn't have to come here. He'll never come here. And I'd like us to have a pizza and a glass of wine. And they said to me, Mom, we really don't have to. I said to them, no, you do. And you do for me. You do because for me. And then we went out. They were polite, had their good manners, and, you know, and I think ultimately it goes back to what I tolerated after their dad was gone, because I suddenly realized my support for discipline I had to be clear about what I wanted them to learn. And I wanted them to respect me as their mom. I wanted them to respect me as a woman. And I wanted them to respect me for my decisions that I was making. And I wanted them to trust me that I wouldn't do something that would harm them. Because I yeah, because they couldn't see how this could work, but I didn't expect them to. And Darren matriculated. He took his dad's death. He internalized a lot of it. He didn't really talk to me much. Grant was a different kettle of fish. He, in grade 9, asked me if he could go to boarding school, which was really tough. But I made a decision there that I actually left it to him. I said to him, you know what, you do the homework on the boarding school. And if you're a fit for the boarding school, then, then let's talk about it. And he did everything. He did all the homework and he did the stuff. And when the masters called me in for the interview and we sat down, they said it would be very good for him, and he is a fit for the boarding school. And I basically let my child go to boarding school, which that would have not happened in our house with my husband alive. Not a chance in hell. So, yeah.
Karin, what an interesting story. I'm so grateful that you're sharing it with us so well, and you're so well versed with illustrating the sequence of events. Thank you so much. I hardly have to ask any question because you're putting it together so well. But if I can ask, and I'd love to talk more about your children, I'm very interested in what you said about being clear about what you wanted them to learn. But before we get to that, can you tell us a little bit about that initial stage that you were in, if I can call it that initial situation of shock and disbelief and devastation? And like you told us so well, how everything was a shambles, and there's the emotional stuff that you have to deal with, and then all these practical things and financial things and everything that's coming to you all at the same time. How do you take care of yourself? What did you do to keep yourself together?
I didn't. I told you that Annelie was part of my story, and she became my partner in business, but literally my other half. We bonded together like you cannot believe. So first, she wasn't my partner initially as a selling partner. I was the main person, and then 2 years later, she said she has to do something. So she became my buyer's assistant. And then a year after that, my partner. So my 50% partner. But in 2014, on that 14th of November, the two of us got into bed and we wept for a week. Mm-hmm. And she had already been through it since I had supported her since June. And some of the stuff we did was like, we had a tub of sweets. We would fill it up with jellies and Smarties and sugus and toffees and chocolates and chuckles and whatever. It was a Tupperware, a big Tupperware like this. And on a Friday night, we'd buy pizza for the children, because her children were the same age as my children, but she's got a girl and a boy, and mine were 2 boys. And we would fill up that tub on a Friday night, get pizza for the kids, and we would get into bed with that Tupperware of sweets and glass of red wine, and that's what we would do. And for about a year, and I realize now that that is wrong, but that was our way of doing it. We didn't eat well. I lost a lot of weight. She also she lost weight. She started running. And I know this is not about her story, but together, we had to get through what was an impossibility. So she started running to the extent that she ran the comrades last year. Unhealthy. She's now hurt herself and all the rest of it. But she wasn't a runner. Her husband was the runner, but she ran. And plus, when we had difficult days, we would get into bed, eat sweets, and drink red wine. Sometimes, because of the nature of my business, I would book a whole day. Like, I can't do this. We would quit before 9, and I would just reschedule the appointments, because mostly I worked appointed, so I didn't have to run around after people. But thank goodness, because the first year was an incredibly difficult year to self-care. In fact, I didn't self-care.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
What you're telling us is the importance of having somebody close to you who can literally just be with you, can just be present when things are so tough and you're literally not coping. And we all find our own way of dealing with it or coping with it or hanging in there, if I can say that.
Yeah.
But I think you were fortunate to have a person close to you that was on the journey with you. And I think it's important that we realize how important it is to reach out to somebody for support or help when we are in that situation.
Absolutely. I must also say I have a very strong faith, and I hung on to my faith. And the one thing I can tell you, I didn't eat, but I read the Bible like you cannot believe it, because that was, to me, the only thing that could take me and save me out of where I was, because I couldn't see how it was going to look in the front. Somebody said to me, you have this massive hole in your heart and it'll never go away. And so I said to them, no, I know that it'll never go away. But you know what? When I then sat with the children, I said, we've got to plant flowers in that hole. We've got to make it look as pretty as possible. And I can say that after a year, you don't actually know when it happens, but you start going, I had to feed the kids, okay, not grant. The first year you have to feed the kids. You cannot feed the kids. What I did, however, realize is I started teaching them and showing them. So they learned to make pasta. They learned to make curry and rice. They learned to make spaghetti bolognese, and there were times when literally they cooked, because there were literally times when I could not eat. So yes, for me, that person that's with you is important, but I think it's also the structure of how you set up your home and what you allow. Well, I didn't allow my children to say, okay, well, she's not going to cook, so let's get takeaways. Or yes, we did that too, but mostly I made sure that there was food in the house that they could eat properly. I didn't eat properly, and they used to tell me that. I don't know if it's wrong or right to, what happened in that first year, but I actually didn't care what happened in that first year. For me, it was survival the first year, literally. And yes, and then it got better. No, not, I can't even tell you it got better after the first. It took a while, because you're never in the same thing again. So much changes. The car's registrations have to change. If you've got a property that's in both of your names, you're dealing with legal matters. And every day there's something, and the first year of the death certificate becomes like your ID, everywhere you go, you need the death certificate. that when you go and speak to the attorney, to do the estate, your husband becomes a file.
Yes.
The first time you see his name on a file, I can't tell you what that does to you. That's quite hard. Yeah.
I'm sure there are, many very, very challenging situations, and even the little details that makes a situation real, that reinforces the reality of what happened.
Yeah.
I love the image. It's a beautiful image that you gave of that big heart in your hole that you've got to plant flowers in, and that you have to make as beautiful as possible. I absolutely love that. That's a beautiful way to describe it. And I must also say, I really admire the way that you've shared with me how you've guided your children through this whole experience. It seems that even though you were devastated and dealing with your own loss and grief, there were times that you were also very much aware of how you were parenting your children. And that's a huge challenge, losing your life partner when you have children, because in a way you have to be strong for everybody and become the leader of the family suddenly without the other parent, yet you are in the throes of your own grief. That must be very, very challenging.
Yeah, and the nicest part for me about looking back at my children now is the fact that I knew they were hurting. I knew that, because boys are different to girls, and I'm not 100% sure what, and I'm generalizing now, but I think girls talk more than boys do. But I always encourage them to be open and to talk to me. They shared a lot with each other. They weren't as close before my husband died, and afterwards they became a lot closer. And I think it's because they truly needed each other. The other thing that they had a very good example in him. My husband was he was a person that stood 100% for honesty and integrity. So the one thing I knew without a shadow of a doubt was my children, they had to know that, and they had to learn that. And so at times when they got into trouble at school, or, there was issues at school where, they didn't know how to deal with something, and, what would you do, Mom, And I would say to them, tell the truth. Tell the truth. Go and stand there and say, I messed up, and tell the truth. And say to them, I messed up. What can I do? How can we fix this? Can you help me? Because I think to them, it's very easy to use the odds out. But I mean, at the end of the day, your father wanted always, everybody, even at the funeral, I mean, people, Dawn got a speeding fine once, and she was going to lie about that or something about that. And he said to her, you can't do that. It's illegal, So they used to rag him a lot. But the kids, honestly, the one thing I made absolutely sure was that in difficult situations, their first port of call is the truth. No matter what the situation is, you tell the truth. And in that regard, I had a much easier parenting journey. Not all the time. When the girlfriends come, it's uncharted territory, and it's absolutely horrific. So that in itself is awful. But yes, I'm pretty proud of where we've ended, because no, not where we've ended, where we are going to, because if I look back, I'm just glad, that I chose that line of, please back yourselves, yes, sure. I'm really sorry you don't have a dad anymore, and me too. I'm sorry for me a lot of the time that, I've lost the one person that, I thought I was going to be with for the rest of my life, I really honestly thought I was that was it. And yes, I don't understand that, you know, how are you 49 and you die of a heart attack, you know, and
Yes.
you're running all these kilometers and I'm the one who doesn't exercise, you know, and I'm the one who's not doing half of what he's doing. And then, you know, he went to the doctor the day before, and the 13th of November, for a checkup, because apparently he had told Dawn that he did have a pain in his shoulder. He never told me that. He told Dawn not to tell me that he had a pain because he didn't want to worry me. And on the 13th, they stressed his heart to 152 beats a minute. They took blood tests. The Monday, the cholesterol came back 1 higher. But I mean, on the Friday, he had a heart attack in his office. The autopsy said his arteries were 60 to 70% blocked. I mean, I just, like, I think to myself, okay, you know, how? How?
Well, I think, yeah, we're left with lots of questions when something like that happens, lots of hows and whys that we can't ever answer.
No, and that's why I go back to, you have a day that your life on earth ends, and that has been determined before you even born, so, or whenever. And that day, you go on and you have a wonderful life and whatever. And the people who are left here, for me, it was, I had to eventually choose, because you can't choose in that first year or two. It's impossible. In fact, the first 4 or 5 months, I can't remember much. You just don't know details. You actually, every day you are going through motions, you know, and you're going through times when you just cry for nothing. You sit in the car and cry at Checkers. You cry at Diskin. You cry in the queue at the doctor. You cry, you know. So, yeah, the first year is a bit of a blur, I must say. I don't actually recall when I could say, even when Rob and I decided to start a relationship, he's wonderful, but it's still complicated and difficult because we still light the candle on the 14th of November. But the nice thing is that he respects where my children are at and our families at, and my extended families at, and what it signifies for us, you know, to say we remember, you know. So yes, we light the candle, and we, on his birthday, and I've let the kids take the lead there a little bit. And I must say, this is the first year that they never posted on social media, you know, with their dad. So, and we left it. And because there are no rules about, let's post a little post every year or let's post whatever. So I told them, you do what your heart feels. And yeah.
I love that, because it's different for everybody. And there's no, like you said so aptly, there aren't rules that apply to everybody, and there's not really a right and a wrong on how to deal with this. It's different for each and every person. But
and I also made them, sorry to interrupt you, I also made them aware of the fact that, you know, a lot of people use social media to get sympathy. You know, like, let's post, you know. And I said to them, don't fall into that trap, you know. What we feel, the real that we feel, you can only feel that if you've been through that, or when you've experienced it. And every person experiences it differently. You know, there's not a textbook for this that happens to you.
Very true, very true. So your children, you mentioned earlier that they were not very keen on meeting your current husband.
Yes.
Do you want to share with us how that has developed, when that changed for them?
Okay, so yeah, they didn't want to meet him, and then I asked them to go to supper that night, and they did, and they were very polite, and that I'm very grateful for. My strict, you will respect me, and you will, whether you say absolutely nothing, you will show your manners. And luckily they went to Boys Eye, so Boys Eye is also very strict in terms of how you know, respect for adults and that, so that helped as well. Then yeah, Rob came over from America, 2018. Yes, 2018, he came from America, and we were together for about 6 months. The kids tolerated him, absolutely just tolerated, you know. They did the polite thing and the whatever. And then Darren, yeah, he just said to me, Mom, you know what, we'll tolerate. I mean, we'll be kind. Then I had an issue with Darren's girl, not an issue, but you know, we just didn't get on one point, and he kind of used that against me a little bit. Oh, if you can't like Ash, I don't have to like Rob, type of thing, you know. So that was another thing that we had to deal with. Anyway, it was 3 years ago that I said to them for Christmas, you know, I'd like them to, Rob and I decided to move to Knysna with Rob. We were staying in Southbrook. I said to them, you two are now I'm going to move you into the flat. I have a flat that they moved into, because they thought they were going to move into the townhouse stay in the townhouse by themselves. I said to them, no, Rob and I have now decided that we are going to make a go of this, you know, and we have decided that we would like to be in a relationship. And I said, you know what, he works in Knysna, so I have to, if we're going to do this, I'm going to have to move to Knysna. So then they said, no problem. They're happy to move out. Moved to the flat. I sold the property, moved down to Knysna. That December, I said to them, okay, I'd like you to come to Knysna. No, Grant had arranged with Ruan. Please, can he go with Ruan on holiday? And Darren decided he's going with Ashley. So I said to them, okay, because now Darren was over 21. Grant wasn't over 21 yet. I kind of didn't know about the rules of, you know, when does the adult child kind of start flapping their wings and you kind of, you know, don't become the be all and end all in their world, you know. So it was a difficult one for me because and I had no one to bounce it off. And also I wanted to be fair to everyone, but no, they didn't come to Knysna, and they said they weren't going to be with me for Christmas, which I then realized I wasn't on their Christmas list either. So they then went to Cape Town. They both landed up in Cape Town. Anyway, we chatted over December, and they then decided while they were in Cape Town that they're going to come for the day. I then said to them, well, sleep over one night in Knysna, and at least you don't have to travel back the same day because it is a 6-hour drive. They then came for the Christmas day, slept over and went back, but literally spent just Christmas with me. And I thought to myself, I didn't say anything. Rob didn't say it. We made it lovely. We made a really nice, and his mom and them came. We just had a really, this is lovely. It's Christmas. Thank you for coming. Next day said goodbye, let them go back. Then it was 4 difficult months. You know, I was in Knysna. I was starting to work in, we moved to Plettenberg Bay then because Rob then started working at Plet Yamaha. And we moved, yeah. And then it was a difficult thing with the children, kind of, you know, we were talking about, okay, we're going to make this more permanent. And I said, well, then we have to have the discussion with the kids. So we flew up to Pretoria. I flew up to Pretoria. I said to him, you stay, let me go. And then I just sat down and I had an open discussion with them. I said to them, you know, my whole life has been dedicated to you. I said, I can now dedicate the rest of it to you, or I can decide that I now move into a new part of my life and a new chapter. I said, you know, Rob can be my boyfriend, you know, and you people can introduce him as my mom's boyfriend. I think they didn't like that too much. I said, or I can do the right thing. And that's what I'd like to do. I said, your dad will always have a place in my heart. You guys are always going to be the most important people in my life, but I'd like to move on with my life. And they were lovely about it. You know, we sat down, we chatted. I said to them, you know, but you've also got to give us a break, you know. And the loveliest thing was, we decided very suddenly last year in October that when we decided, okay, now we want to get married, we said, okay, when's a good time? Okay, this is not a good time. That's Darren's birthday. This is Grant's birthday month. This is when Nigel died. This is, so there's never a good month. So I said, well, the 31st of December sounds like a very good day to me. Like, it's a celebration. Let's just get married on the 31st of December. So we said to the kids, okay, that's what we want to do. And I said to them, you don't have to come. You don't have to be there. No more, they're coming. I said, okay. And then it was lovely from there, because what Rob did was he phoned them. And when the next time we were in Pretoria, he went and sat with them. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'd like to marry your mom. You know, I'd like your blessing. And there was a major, I don't know what they talked about or what they said, but it just was different. And on the wedding, I said to them, you know, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be an intimate 25 people. Those who can make it will make it. Those who can't, we understand it's holiday season. Some people won't be able to make it. Everybody's invited. If you can come, you can come. But eventually we were 30 people. And then those children asked if they could do a speech at the wedding. Mm-hmm. And it was lovely. Absolutely, absolutely lovely. They won't say he's their stepdad. Yeah, not yet. No, they won't do that. But they are they speak to him when we go on the phone. They'll say, hello, Rob, how are you? You know, there's nothing like that, but they're way more respectful, you know, of where we were. Mm. So, yeah.
What a beautiful story. What an absolutely inspiring story. It makes me realize that we seem to think that the passing away of a person is the big thing, but that's actually only the start. Your whole journey with your two sons, ever since their father passed away, ever since you lost your husband, is part of the healing process up till today, where they are at a point where they were actually, and I think what a beautiful thing to do for Rob to go and ask your sons for their blessing. I think it's an absolutely beautiful thing to do. And wow.
He asked my dad as well. He asked my dad as well. So yeah, he did the whole thing. And I mean, yeah, this is our 60th this year. He turned 60 in May. I turned 60 in October. So, and I lost both my parents 2 years ago in 2021, a week apart. So, goodness. And I think there as well, the kids saw what a important part he played in my life, because I had to fly from my mom was in hospital. It was that COVID craziness and all the rest of it. And hers was old age. She had fallen, but she hadn't broken anything, but it was just, And then my dad tested positive, and my mom passed away the 3:30 on the 26th of June, and my dad at 3:30 on the 3rd of July, a week apart. They would have been married 60 years. So it was, and then I got COVID. 20 days of, literally that. So the funerals also had to be together and uitgestel in the whole works. But my children saw a different side of Rob there as well. That, in terms of, is chaos in the 25th degree, and he was there to support and help and stand by and pick up the pieces.
And that is so important. That is so valuable. Wow. Karin, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm honored to hear it, and I'm sure everybody who's going to watch this video is going to find a lot of inspiration and wisdom that you've shared with us. If I can ask a last question.
Yes, sure.
What would you say to another woman who finds herself in this situation?
Cling to God. Honestly, you will never find the answers here on earth with people. If you have a friend or a family member that you're close to and they support you, and that's great, but your answers are 100% with God. Because I can only, by the grace of God, give 2 beautiful kids and a hopeful future, and honestly, tons of grace. That's that. If that's what I would say, I would say that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. What an honor to chat to you. Thank you so much, Karin.
Thank you.